Hello. So today I'm going to show a quick book haul. I haven't gotten a lot of books recently, a lot of new books, but I do have a few to show. And then I'll catch you up on what I'm reading. And then at the end I'm going to do like a little author highlight, spotlight. So yeah, those are the three parts of this video. So to start off, I think I'm going to start with the haul today. So let me get that all set. These were books that I've wanted for a while. It's actually a trilogy. And again, I've mentioned her before, but I've heard of this trilogy from Peruse Project, Reagan, over on Peruse Project. She's talked about it a couple of times, and it's just kind of sparked my interest. And the third book just came out, so I've been seeing it a lot when I go to Barnes & Noble and stuff. So this is the trilogy I am talking about. I'm not sure what it's called. I think it's the Empire of the Wolf trilogy. So yes, there they are. The first book is The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. The back of the book says, "No man is above the law." And so I don't know a ton about the series, but I know it's a political fantasy. Let me look quickly at the blurb. It says, from a major new voice in epic fantasy, The Justice of Kings introduces Sir Conrad von Valt, an emperor's justice who is a detective, judge, and executioner all in one. But these are dangerous times to be a justice. It says, the Empire of the Wolf simmers with unrest. Rebels, heretics, and powerful patricians all challenge the power of the imperial throne. Only the Order of Justices stands in the way of chaos. Sir Conrad von Valt is the most feared justice of all, upholding the law by way of his sharp mind, arcane powers, and his skill as a swordsman. At his side stands Helena Sidanka, his talented protege, orphaned by the wars that forged the empire. When the pair investigates the murder of a provincial aristocrat, they unearth a conspiracy that stretches to the very top of imperial society. As the stakes rise and become ever more personal, von Valt and Helena must make a choice. Will they abandon the laws they've sworn to uphold in order to protect the empire? So yes, this is an adult epic fantasy. I believe it's a trilogy, but I could be wrong. I know there's only 3 books out so far. So that is the first book, and the next book is The Tyranny of Faith. I also really love these covers. I think they're very pretty. I know some people don't really like when there's like realistic art on the covers, but I actually prefer that most of the time. Obviously, I'm not going to read the inside of the second book because I do not want to be spoiled. So that is the second book, and then the third book is called The Trials of Empire. And I believe this is the book that just came out, obviously, since it's the third one. I also really like that on the covers there's animal symbolism on each one. So the first one showed a wolf, the second one showed a deer, and this one shows snakes, obviously. I also really like that they show that they feature 3 different characters. I think that's really interesting, and it kind of grabs your attention because you kind of want to know who everyone is. And I feel like typically covers usually repeat characters a lot of the time, at least one of them. So it's just something I admire about these covers. And again, so this is the most recent book, so I'm not going to read the inside of this one. Let me see if it says anything, if it's a finale or not. The final book in a trilogy. Okay. So yeah, this is the last book and it's a trilogy. So it's kind of nice that it's completed so I can just read them all at once whenever I feel like it and not have to wait for another installment. So yeah, those are the only books I've hauled recently. Again, I've been trying to do better with my wallet, and if you've seen any of my bookshelf tours, you know that I do not need more books. So next, I just wanted to give you a quick update on what I'm reading. So as I mentioned previously, I was going to start Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. Again, this is the spin-off to the Remnant Chronicles that she published back in 2014. So yeah, this is a spin-off duology, and this is book 1. And as you can tell, I've made quite the headway. I have like a little over 100 pages left, I think. And I'm really liking this book so far. So we're set in the same world as the Remnant Chronicles. But we're following different characters and we're a little ahead in the future. I think we're maybe 10 years in the future. And we're following a thief named Kazi. And she was tasked by the queen to go on this mission to find a traitor that you know of from the previous trilogy. So she and her 2 sort of friends who are also soldiers are traveling to this small kingdom. It's not really a kingdom, but I suppose, I don't know another word for it, but it's not as big as the other kingdoms, but they think the traitor is hiding in this kingdom, and so they're tasked to go there and try to find him out. But along the way she meets a certain prince of that said kingdom, and they kind of get caught up together in lots of situations, sort of thrust together. And it's a really good book. I'm really enjoying it. I loved the Remnant Chronicles, the original trilogy, but I have to say, maybe it's just because I'm familiar with the world, but I think I'm enjoying this maybe even a little bit more. I still loved the original trilogy, but I really like the dynamic between Kazi and Jace. Jace is the other character's name, and you get both of their perspectives in this, so it goes back and forth. It's really enjoyable. I'm kind of flying through the pages. So yeah, I'm very excited to finish this book. I'm hoping to get it done tonight. We'll see if I have time for that. Or if I'm up till 2 o'clock, as I was 2 nights ago and yesterday night as well. But yeah, really enjoying this so far. So I'm excited. I'm also really excited that it's a duology, because if there's a cliffhanger, which I think there's going to be, I don't have to be scared of another cliffhanger, you know, like since it's a duology, I'll know how everything wraps up in the next book. So there's some relief in that. Okay, and so the other thing I wanted to do was, again, kind of highlight an author, especially because this author is coming out with a new book in September or October, I think, and I'm very excited for it. So this is an author I enjoy, obviously, since I own their books. I'm enjoying a lot. So that author is Alison Saft, and these are the 3 books I have by her. So I'll go in publication order. I believe this was her debut. It's called Down Comes the Night, and this is sort of a gothic romantic fantasy. It's young adult. The blurb describes it as a snow-drenched romantic fantasy that keeps you racing through the pages long into the night. So I don't know a ton about this book, and I kind of want to go in not knowing a lot, but it definitely has a gothic sort of Victorian London vibe to me. And again, so this is her first book, and it's one that I have not read yet. But the other 2 I have, and I immensely enjoyed both of them. So the first book I read from her is A Far Wilder Magic. I loved this book. It says a magical secret, a mythical hunt, and a love that could risk everything. So in this book, we follow a girl who's sort of ostracized by the town she lives in. I believe this book also, it's a young adult fantasy, and I believe it incorporates some Jewish mythology in it as well. There's definitely some allegories that I think you could interpret through that lens as well. But anyway, so Margaret is the main character. She sort of lives away from the busyness of the town, but she's a really good sharpshooter, and she ends up teaming up with this boy who's like an alchemist in training. And they sort of become thrust together, and they enter this hunt together. And I don't want to give away any spoilers, and also it's been a little bit since I've read it, so I don't even know if I could give you spoilers, but it's a really good fantasy. It's very atmospheric, very much, again, like if you're like a woodsy fantasy enjoyer, this was really good. And also the characters were just very individual. I feel like sometimes in the pitfalls of young adult fantasy, characters can feel kind of distinctless, like they sort of just like stand-in characters that you've read before. That's definitely not the case in this book. There's like family dynamics, And it's also a slow romance. So, very enjoyable. Highly recommend. And then this next book, this is actually a book box edition. I think it's Fairy Loot. Let's see if it says. It might be a Luna Crate. I was completely wrong. It's Owl Crate. So scratch both of those. It's a really pretty cover. A Fragile Enchantment. This is very much like a royal kind of fantasy. It has a different vibe to A Far Wilder Magic. Less woodsy and more fairy tale vibes, I guess. But it's really good. It's not like a retelling or anything. It's about a girl named Niam. And she sort of has magic in her blood, and she can stitch her emotions and memories into fabric. But the downside of this curse is that doing so speeds up her life, and that like it takes away from her life. So the more she does it, the closer to death she is. And she ends up being called to knit something for the royal family. There's supposed to be a marriage coming up. So she needs to knit clothes for the family and the prince who is to be married. And obviously you can kind of see where this is going. So she and this very surly prince. She's like one of those like sort of sunshine characters, and he's very moody. He's very surly. So their dynamic is really fun. And it's just a really fun like royal fantasy, I would say. I just love Alison Saft's writing is really enjoyable. And I think she's a staple for me in young adult fantasy. I do want to do sort of like a series of like auto-buy authors at some point. I think that'd be fun. Like authors that I'll just pick up anything they write. If I do end up doing that, this would sort of count as a video because Alison Saft has become an auto-buy author for me. So yeah, this edition has some pink sprayed pages. The back says, "This had been a fairy tale after all." And there's also art on the inside. So yes, these are our two main characters. It's a really pretty book. There's also art on the inside of the dust jacket. To me, this one leans more on the side of cozy fantasy. Like if I had to categorize them, I would say Down Comes the Night is gothic fantasy, Far Wilder Magic is forest fantasy, and this would be cozy royal fantasy. And on the cover of this book it says The Tattler, which is this like gossip magazine or gossip newsletter from the book that often likes to spin tales about the prince and the rest of the royal family. In the book you get to see sort of like clips and like snippets of the paper, so it does play a part. And the back says, "Something has begun to bloom, and what has lain follow." The reason I chose Alison Saft to talk about is because she has a new book coming out, I think it's either September or October. Hopefully I will write it somewhere on here. Called A Dark and Drowning Tide. And it is a sapphic fantasy. I believe it's about a folklorist. It has like a rival romance in that, so it's about a folklorist whose mentor, I think, goes missing. And she's looking into some like folklore element. I don't really know too much about the synopsis, but and she ends up having to work with like her academic enemy to try to find it, and also figure out what happened with her mentor. So if you've seen the cover, it's stunning, absolutely stunning. Usually I end up liking UK covers a lot, but I think I prefer the US one for this one. The UK one is pretty too, but if I had to choose. But yeah, this just sounds so good. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it might be an adult fantasy. I'll have to double check that, so don't take my word for that, but I think it might be adult. Anyways, I'm just very excited for it. It's one of my most anticipated fall reads, so I think it'll fit perfectly for like the autumnal time. So yeah, if you've never read Alison Saft, I really love her books. She's an auto-buy author for me. If I had to pick a favorite of the two I've read, I think it would be this one. I just loved the forest vibes in this, and I loved the characters. So yeah, that is all I have for this video today. I will hopefully finish up Dance of Thieves soon. Very excited to finish it because it's really good. And again, if you're interested in some adult fantasy, I will hopefully get to read these soon and let you know if they live up to my expectations. But I'm very excited to get to them. So, anyways, that is all. That is all for today. So, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in my next one. Thank you.